the Maha Mantra. It is said that saints have been able to hear the vibrating strings of the veena in the hands of Narada, who is always singing the glories of Lord Krishna. Now this same sound vibration has entered my ears, and I am always feeling the presence of the Supreme Personality. Gradually, I am becoming bereft of all attachment for material enjoyment. Again, Srila Rupa Goswami has described Mathura Mandala. I remember the Lord standing by the banks of the Jamuna River, so beautiful amid the Kadamba trees, where many birds are chirping in the gardens. And these impressions are always giving me transcendental realization of beauty and bliss. It's a very nice description of Mathura. This feeling about Mathura Mandala and Vrindavan, described by Rupa Goswami, can actually be felt even by non-devotees. The places in the 84 square mile district of Mathura are so beautifully situated on the banks of the river Jamuna that anyone who goes there will never want to return to this material world. He's not necessarily talking about the Mathura in this material world. He's talking about the actual spiritual Mathura. These statements by Rupa Goswami are factually realized descriptions of Mathura and Vrindavan. All these qualities prove that Mathura and Vrindavan are situated transcendentally. Otherwise, there would be no possibility of invoking our transcendental sentiments in these places. Such transcendental feelings are aroused immediately and without fail after one arrives in Mathura or Vrindavan. Yeah, if you go and stay in Vrindavan, even for a very short time, the sentiments, the strong bhakti, devotional sentiments of the residents of Vrindavan will awaken transcendental feelings. Just by associating with the dust of Vrindavan, you will get appreciation for devotional service to Krishna. Everyone going here and there in their business, they're saying, Jai Radhe, Jai Radhe. You hear it everywhere. Jai Radhe. So you cannot forget Krishna, even for a moment. Everywhere you go, you're hearing Krishna's name, hearing kirtans, hearing people greet each other with these mantras. Such a wonderful place. In these statements about devotional service, sometimes it may appear that the results have been overestimated, but actually there is no overestimation. Some devotees, as revealed scriptures give evidence, have had immediate result by such association, although this is not possible for all. For example, the Kumaras immediately became devotees simply by smelling the incense in the temple. Bilvamangala Thakur simply heard about Krishna and then immediately gave up his beautiful girlfriend and started out for Mathura and Vrindavan, where he became a perfect Vaishnava. So these statements are not overestimations, nor are they stories. They are actual facts, but are true for certain devotees and do not necessarily apply to all. These descriptions, even if considered overestimations, must be taken as they are in order to divert our attention from the fleeting material beauty to the eternal beauty of Krishna consciousness. And for a person who is already in contact with Krishna consciousness, the described results are not unusual. This is one of the offenses against the holy name, is to consider the descriptions of the holy name or the effects of the holy name to be exaggeration, or to make some material interpretation on the meaning of the holy name. To consider that the Vedic scriptures are not factual. These are all offenses against the holy name. Actually, the wonderful descriptions of the effects of the holy name, far from being exaggerations, are very conservative. Actually, the holy name is even more wonderful than that. But the wonders of the holy name are so amazing, they can't even be described in words. We don't even have the words to truly understand. How do you describe the flavor of pure love? How do you describe the wonderful feeling of release from the law of karma? You know, how do you describe these things, these inner feelings and sensations? They're not possible. How do you describe the taste of the holy name, like when we're chanting Vishnu Sahasranam? Huh? That pure, clean, crisp, beautiful taste. How can anyone describe that? Well, I guess I just did. Oh well. Anyway, some scholars argue that simply by following the principles of Varna and Ashram, one can gradually rise to the perfections reached by practicing devotional service. But this argument is not accepted by the great authorities. Lord Chaitanya also condemned this idea while he was talking with Ramananda Rai about the gradual development of devotional service. He rejected the idea of the importance of Varnashram Dharma when it was put forward by Ramananda Rai. He said that this advancement of Varna and Ashrama is simply external. There is a higher principle. In Bhagavad Gita also, the Lord says that one has to give up all other principles of elevation and take simply to the method of Krishna consciousness. This will help one in achieving the highest perfection of life. That's true. Varna and ashram are part of the material instructions in the Vedas. The Vedas mainly deal with the three modes of material nature, Krishna says. In the second chapter, verse 54, I think. He says, the Vedas deal mostly with the modes of material natures. Be transcendental to these modes. See? So all of these Vedic ritualistic principles are basically external. They're external because they deal with management of the material body and material energy. But spiritual devotional service is completely transcendental because it engages the soul, pure consciousness, in the consciousness of Krishna through his holy name. So try to understand that this process is transcendental from the very beginning. It's not that it utilizes the material energy in some way. It doesn't use the material energy at all. Maybe externally there's some engagement of the material energy, but internally there's direct contact between the soul and Krishna. And that's the essence of devotional service, or Krishna consciousness. I'm always amazed at people who make some material interpretation of Krishna consciousness. Krishna consciousness means you go to this temple, you wear some funny clothes, you do this, you do that, and it's all described in external. No, it's not external. That's only preliminary or preparatory or a preliminary purification so that you can appreciate what Krishna consciousness really is. Krishna consciousness is really pure consciousness of Krishna. You see, but because in our Western civilization we have a very poverty-stricken ontology when it comes to consciousness. Just today I was involved in this long conversation of comments on YouTube where this guy just didn't get it. He's a so-called intelligent, so-called educated person. Yet he couldn't understand that consciousness is different from personality, from ego, from mind, from emotion, from all these things. He couldn't understand that. The mind, the emotions, the intelligence, and all these things are objects of consciousness. Consciousness itself is completely separate from these things. Completely different quality of existence. Completely different ontological platform. See, people don't understand these things. There is no scientific formula or a scientific theory of consciousness that can predict the changes in consciousness when one encounters transcendental sound vibration. This is not part of any psychological theory or any scientific explanation of consciousness in Western science, material science. Because they can't be explained by anything material. You see? So they try to ignore it. They try to say this doesn't exist. Because the only way to verify this is to try the experiment yourself. You yourself have to become pure. You yourself have to chant the holy name. Then you can experience all these things. Because consciousness is subjective. It can't be measured. It can't be set up in the laboratory, poured into a test tube, isolated, examined with material instruments. Huh? Consciousness is a property or quality of the living entity. That means you and me, the soul, the person. Huh? So it can't be separated from the living entity. It can't be objectified. It can't be made into something material or separate from the soul. The only way to verify the Vedic science of consciousness is to perform the experiment yourself. And when you do, you get the same result. But you have to follow the instructions. And that's the thing. They don't want to become pure. They don't want to follow the instructions. They don't want to give up meat, sex life, intoxication, gambling, speculation, and all this nonsense. They refuse to give it up. So they can't get the same result. They can't verify the result. So then they say the scriptures are wrong. You're just imagining it.